morning. How are you? Last day of clinical. I'm gonna go pick up everybody muffins. Yeah. Here. Go into the garage. Park up there, but walk into the garage. That way you can just walk right in. I love you.
Have a good day.
Bye. Good morning. Welcome back. It's been a few days since I've been on here and done anything. I am on my way to clinical right now. It is my last day of clinical ever, hopefully. I have 4 hours left and then I'm finished with my hours in total. I finished all of my assignments, everything is turned in. I'll have to submit my final hours today after I go to clinical, which is like just a few clicks of a button. Like this is it. Like I have 4 hours left and I am like done with school. I think probably, hopefully forever. I don't know. Sometimes I like debate if I'll go back for any like post certification or anything, which maybe, but right now, foreseeable future, I'm done with school, so it feels really good. Although I don't feel super great yet because I still have to take my boards. I know when that's done and when I pass, I will feel like a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. But it still feels like something, saying that I don't have any more assignments or anything school related in that regard. When I finish my 4 hours today, it's in the bag, mail me my diploma, I'm done. But I still gotta take my boards. You get it. But yeah, I'm gonna go stop really quickly and grab, I think like some muffins or bagels or something for the office. And I did get my, oh, I should have showed it. It's so cute. Maybe I'll insert a picture. It's a pin with a uterus and ovaries, and then on it it says grow a pair, like instead of balls though, ovaries. I thought it was kind of cute. I think she'll like it. So I signed up for the AANP exam. I paid my fee, which was like just over $300, and then I had to submit basically like my unofficial transcript. So I had to go through and like manually input all the classes that I took and the credits that they're worth, and then I also had to go in and input all of my clinical sites that I worked at and my preceptors and their credentials. It was kind of a time-consuming process, I felt like, to just sign up for the exam. And now I'm waiting to be able to schedule my test date. I don't plan on telling people like the date that I'm taking it because it's freaking stressful enough as it is. I don't want everyone being like, did you pass? Did you pass? Because you do. You find out right then and there. And if I don't pass, which I know is a possibility, I'll cry. But then I will put my big girl pants back on and I will take the exam again, obviously. But really hoping I pass on the first time. I thought I would do like a little story time on the way about my last shift that I worked and why I cannot wait to be done with bedside nursing. So I don't know if I've mentioned this on any of my previous videos, but the reality of it is that I'm extremely burnt out on bedside nursing. It's hard to explain because I don't want it to come across like I don't love to be a nurse. When I get to sit down with my patients and like get to really feel like I make a difference and get to know my patients, I love it. I don't feel like there's any other career that would give you that fulfillment. You're seeing them in their worst and you're helping them and you feel like you're making a difference. So in that regard, or in that sense, I really love nursing, but it doesn't change the fact that every day that I go to work at the hospital, I dread my shift. I'm always leaving there just feeling so exhausted, emotionally and physically drained. And yeah, and I know I'm not alone. I never felt this way before COVID, so I want to blame it on that, but I think it's a few different things. Resources are limited, staffing is limited, volume of patients is extremely high, acuity of patients is extremely high. So I'm a float pool nurse. If you've seen my previous videos, I do say that. I was trained in the ER for 4 years. I worked as a nurse, and then I took a contingent float pool position. I started in this last October, so not very long have I been in the float pool. And initially they were only sending me to the ICU, and I actually enjoyed the ICU. I didn't think that I would, but I actually really liked it. Well, our ICU got agency nurses and they capped their beds at like 16 or something. So they don't ever have float pool nurses there anymore. So now I'm being sent to our progressive care unit, which is floor nursing, essentially. If you're a nurse, then you know that there's, floor nursing means some people like to work on the floor and some people don't. I never wanted to work on the floor, but I knew when I took my float pool position that it was a possibility that I would have to do it and I'd have to go where help was needed. So I knew that going in. But if we're being fully transparent here, I never wanted to work on the floor as a nurse. When I was in nursing school and I was going to clinicals, every rotation I started questioning if I wanted to be a nurse because I wasn't liking the floor. And then I did my preceptorship in an ER, and I loved it. I loved the ER right away, felt at home. It's just very different if you've worked ER to floor. It's a huge difference in your flow and your tasks and your assessments and the people. Like, it's a different environment. And I felt very at home in the ER, and I still do. I still love emergency medicine. So I've been going to the progressive care unit a lot lately, and I do dread my shifts. And it's not against anybody that likes to work on the progressive care unit. It's not against anybody that I work with on the unit. Like, there's been a lot of nice people. It's just the job I don't enjoy. Anyway, so when I got to work, you go to this area where you see your name on an assignment sheet and they tell you where you're going. What it said was peds. We have not had a peds unit in like over a year. I think at our hospital they shut it down. I mean, we will stabilize, and of course we have all the stuff to do that, but if children are being admitted to the hospital, they're not staying at the hospital that I work at. They're being sent somewhere else. So peds, I was like, wow, that's kind of, what the heck? I went over to like our staffing office and I asked them if that was like somebody wrote that down incorrectly. They said no, because of the volume of patients and the amount of holds they had in the ER. They had like 30 plus holds. COVID is really bad right now in our hospital, so that is just making a huge mess as well. So because of the volume, they had to open up this area that was previously our peds unit to hold this overflow of patients. I'm like, okay, cool. Is anyone else over there? So they say, well, you'll have, they have one nurse, one tech, and it's capped at 5 patients. Okay, cool. This peds unit is adjacent to our progressive care unit. That's the closest people I got, if I needed anyone, was progressive care. So first what I did was I went to the break room on the progressive care unit to like set my lunch down and I figured, I'm like, maybe I would get my assignment sheets here. I don't know, because this is the closest one. And also just to like, that's just only place I really knew where to go and like drop my things off. And I told him, I'm like, yeah, today they are putting me on the peds unit. I'm taking care of some of the overflow patients. I have this tech here, but if it comes to like a break, like, do I go to you guys for a break? And he laughed and he looked at me and he's like, you're effed, is what he said to me. And he was just like laughing. And I mean, yeah, I could take a joke, like, I get it. He was like, whatever. But like, there was definitely like an underlying sense of like truth to that. Like, he clearly was irritated that he would even have to deal with me and like my lunch break or whatever, dealing with whatever I needed. So I decided to walk over to the peds unit because they didn't have my assignment sheet there, because they made it very clear that they were not responsible for any of the patients over on the peds unit. And he was even saying, he's like, I knew this was going to happen. They said that progressive care wasn't going to have to be in charge of these patients, and here it is, day one, and it's already falling on me and having to find you a break, a buddy or whatever. And I'm like, okay, man, like, I had nothing to do with this, but I hear you. So I left and I walked over to the nurse that was there before me, because they had started staffing it that night. Got a report from her, took the assignment sheets or whatever, and I mean, not even like 30 minutes into my shift, 2 of my patients had a bowel movement in their bed. and the other one was like on the call light. It was literally just like kind of like a cluster, like right away. And luckily I had a tech that was the bomb. I had a good partner and she was really helping me, but we were like already just like drowning in just tasks. And all of my patients had like 20 plus meds. So we're dealing with all this stuff. And also one of my patients is a 1-to-1 with advanced dementia and Alzheimer's. And she was not aggressive, but she was a huge fall risk because she had also glaucoma, like macular degeneration, could not see, and was constantly trying to climb out of the bed. So she has a sitter for her safety, and they didn't have anyone to staff the sitter, right? It is what it is. It sucks when you don't have the staff, but like she needed somebody, otherwise I would never be able to get out of that room. My entire 12 hours would be trying to stop her from climbing and falling out of bed. So they come over to me and they're like, oh, you know, we don't have someone to sit for her. We're gonna have to pull, like, this is PCU now. It was one of the nurses. It was really random. I don't even know why. It wasn't the charge nurse or anything. She's like, so we have to actually pull one of our secretaries to sit with your patient. And, you know, we were told that these weren't going to be our responsibility. And, you know, this really isn't how we were told this was going to happen. I'm like, okay, again, I hear you, but nothing to do with it. Like, take it up with staffing or bed management, whatever. Like, I have nothing to do with it. I just came here to do my job. So then the secretary comes in and clearly, literally walks up. She's like, this isn't my job. I'm like, no, I get it. Like, you don't have to do any patient care. All I need really from you is that you make sure she doesn't fall out of bed. She's sitting in there and I hear her yelling at this patient over and over again, get in bed, get in bed. I'd hate for you to fall. I'd hate for you to fall. But literally not getting out of this chair. Like, don't talk to the patient like that. She's somebody's grandma and she can't help the fact that she's really freaking confused. Also, get off the chair, stand up on your 2 feet, and walk over to the patient if she's about to climb out of bed or fall out of bed. Like, the secretary would literally get up and hit the call light for me to come in there and redirect the patient. And I told her, I'm like, ma'am, if I can't leave this room, I can't do my job. Like, this is what I need you for. I'm gonna need you to try to redirect this patient before you hit this call light for me every time. I was trying to just be very matter of fact about it. So then, one of the nurses comes over and says, we're gonna have to pull your tech. Oh, no. You know, what? No. She's like, yeah, because, you know, one of our techs didn't show up, and, it was just really funny because just a minute ago, this area they had nothing to do with, but now all of a sudden they can take my support staff. She's like, so, you know, this tech over here is like covering way too many patients. We need her help, which I get. I can be a team player. I totally get it. Like, you got to do what you have to do for staffing. I get it, but it was just the idea of it. I understand her helping with those patients, but like, I still need somebody over here with me also, because on that side, on their PCU, they had all their nurses, they had the rest of the aides, the charge nurses over there. Like, they had way more staff over there. My area had like it was me and my tech, that was it. So if anything goes wrong, we're gonna have to yell for somebody. Nothing was stocked because this was like a dead zone, like not even 24 hours ago. It was just like, you can't take the only help I have like all day long. Like, I still need a tech too. And that's basically what I said. She like kind of like huffed about it and like walked away. So then the assistant manager comes over. I'm in my patient's room, and he comes into my patient's room and he's talking to me and he's asking me, you know, if everything is okay. And I said, well, do you want to talk in here or do you want to wait till I'm done doing my patient care and we can talk outside the room? He's like, no, I just want to know if you need help or anything. I'm like, okay, so I guess he wants to talk in here then. And so I told him, I'm like, look, my assistant, she's a float pool tech. When I came into work today, they staffed me on this unit that had been closed with the thought that I would also be staffed with the float pool tech. So for you to come over and have a nurse come tell me that you're pulling my tech, I just don't understand like how you can do that to me. I need help over here. And then he's like, maybe we should talk outside of the patient's room. I'm like, dude, you asked. So we walk out of the patient's room and I say that all the same stuff again. I'm like, I don't feel like you could just take my help, right? Like, I've already been told that I'm effed when I want a break. Now you're telling me you're gonna pull my tech. Like, what are you trying to do here? And he's like, no, we would never do that. Like, she just needs to help on the other side over here as well. I'm like, I get it. I could be a team player. I get it. But I hope that everyone else can also remember that when I need help then. And I'm like, for example, like who's gonna cover my lunch break? Because I'm not working a full shift and not having a break. And he's like, well, I guess I'll have to do it then. Like, said it just like that. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever, I guess you'll have to do it then. And then he also says, and how bad do you need that one-to-one sitter? Do you think that you could talk to the doctor and see if they could cancel that order? Because right now we only have one secretary on the floor. And I said, one, no. 1,000% no. Like, she needs a sitter. It's a safety thing. Unless you want to pay me to sit with the patient, my nursing wages, I'd be happy to do it. Otherwise, no, she needs a sitter. And he's like, well, do you think you could call staffing and see if they could, you know, because she needs a nurse assistant anyway in there at NA to sit with her. Do you think you can call staffing and tell them to place an NA with her instead? I'm like, God, that sounds like your job. I didn't say that, but like, really, come on, why would I do that when sorry, I just had to order my muffins. So I'm just going through Tim Hortons to get everybody some breakfast. But anyway, so I mean, you can kind of get the vibe of my shift, right? I don't know. It was just a frustrating day. So that was just like the logistics of it. And then the nursing part of it was very hard as well. I had like 4 total care patients. One was a walkie-talkie guy. No other nurses around, no doctors around, like no one around. Like it was just me and my patients. But I did have like a moment that was really kind of sweet, and I thought I would share that too to like end this, so I don't only sound like I'm complaining. Which I know I am. Hold on, let's pay for our muffins. Hi, how are you? No, thank you.
Sure.
Anyway, so one of my patients had BKA, below the knee amputation. He had gotten it the day before I had him as a patient. It was obvious, so very new, obviously. It was, he was non-compliant with his medication, type 2 diabetic, and you know how that goes. But very nice gentleman, right? Very nice guy, and he had just gone through quite a bit. When I walked in there, he saw me, and he waited a minute, but I could tell he wanted to ask, because a lot of people usually want to ask, like, why I walk a little differently. So he asked me, he goes, can I ask you a question? I already know what's coming. He's like, do you have all your limbs? And I told him I do, actually. I have all of my limbs. I have partial paralysis on my left side, though, from a spinal cord injury that I had. And so I use like an assistive device to help me walk. Just kind of like how hopefully you'll be able to use like a prosthetic. And his face just lit up, like no joke. He wore his heart on his sleeve. I got to know this guy, and he was just smiling from ear to ear, and he's like, man, he's like, I was sitting in here feeling bad for myself, thinking that I wasn't gonna be able to walk, or it was impossible for me. And he's like, I see you. He's like, I don't know why I thought I wasn't gonna walk again. He's like, I'll figure out a way. I'm like, absolutely you will. What do you mean? If there's a will, there's a way. And it was so fun too, because his mom got to come in and sit with him, and she was in her 90s probably, in a wheelchair, but she had been able to show that she had been vaccinated, and so now our hospital is allowing one visitor if they show like vaccination status. So she got to come in and sit with the patient, and I looked through all of his previous like notes. I was reading it through his chart, and it was mom at bedside, mother at bedside, mother at bedside. Like she clearly was always there for him. She was the sweetest lady. And I got to sit with her and talk with her, and she really actually was the one that like just warmed my heart. By the end of it, we hugged, so that's all you need to know. Like I gave her a big hug, and he's like, man, you hugged my mama. He's like, I love this hospital now. Like this is my place. It was like it was a really sweet encounter, I guess. So that was it. So like it was a really rough day, but I had a really sweet encounter with one of my patients and his mom, and it does remind you of why you chose the job and why you stay, even though some days are really hard and some days are even harder than others. But there are these moments that, even if they're fleeting, because you don't have very long, obviously, with your patient tasks, they're fleeting, but they remind you of why you wanted to be a nurse and why you continue to stay in the field even though days are hard, especially after the pandemic. I mean, medicine has changed and it's not for the better. A lot of us are really burnt out. So yeah, these moments mean a lot. I told him, I'm like, maybe we'll see each other one day on the outside, eh? Like it's jail. That was funny. He laughed. We all laughed. They were really cute.